Welcome back to another episode of the Fatherhood podcast. Because every time you're not on, Kay, I always forget to mention this, so I'll say it straight off top. EFN will not be able to join us today. I know, I'm sad too. Oh, that's
got flu vibes.
Yeah, him and the family are down for the count. So hopefully he's getting better. But we'll carry on without him for today.
But I think we got a first for today.
Yeah, so today actually a listener reached out to us on IG. So by the way, if you don't follow us on IG, please take a second, tap in at FlyDad. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. At Fatherhoods Pod, HOODSPOD, on IG. And so we'll get into having him introduce himself, but he reached out with, I think, an issue that we've all experienced here on the podcast. And I know many dads that listen to us have probably had a similar one.
Yeah, I think we were talking about somehow we were talking about it, and then it resonated with him, and he chimed in. So,
yeah, I think it was the Black Moon episode that.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, it was the Black Moon episode. Yeah,
our throwback.
Yeah,
a throwback. Yeah, so we invited him on just to chop it up and talk about the experience of like raising your kids away from your core family, right? Like a lot of us, we either move to different states, different countries, different parts of town. And it becomes difficult to like get with our nucleus or like those people that we usually depend on in our families or friends to be able to help us out in a bunch of different things. So I'll turn it over to you, Shawn. Why don't you come introduce yourself and like let the people know what you're about?
Sure. Yeah. Long time listener, really. For a minute, I found you guys on IG, following Drink Champs and FN or whatever, and I just, I should have introduced myself first, right? I do these things often. I always forget. I'm Shawn, right? VFX Shawn on IG. I'm a visual effects artist, project manager. I work in TV and movies, currently overseeing the Star Trek universe for CBS, project managing the visual effects, at least for it. Big into that.
EFM would love to hear that, actually, because I think he's a big, like,
Star Wars,
guy. Star Trek.
Yeah, he's into it too. But we'll chop it up on him too, man. Hopefully, peace to his family, him and his family. I hope they get on the mend, and we'll be able to do it again sometime. But yeah, I was, when you dropped that throwback episode, it was actually one of my favorite episodes because I love how fucking raw Buckshot is, right?
Yeah,
like Buckshot to me is like how I am as like a father. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people don't really understand that, like that he's got an aggressive nature about him, and I kind of do the same. I have the same way, not aggressive in a way that we don't mince
like
words.
Direct?
We say it. Yeah, we direct. We say it how it is, So when I was re-listening to the episode, FN has said something about him being, him and his lady being away from family and not having that, so they have to split the responsibilities, and that really touched on it because that's something that has been an issue for me. I've been out in LA since like 2010. And me and my wife, we have no family at all really here. We got some friends or whatever, but we don't have like there's no structure. Some people who live at home and they live in the same town for their whole lives or whatever, or they grew up there and they never leave. They have like their aunts and uncles, their grandparents and stuff like that. And I think that the dynamic is very different when you don't have that. You have to learn how to do things differently and parent differently. At least for me, that's what I kind of have been having to do,
Yeah.
And I listen to you guys almost religiously because there's always some gems in there that like look, like I'm a dude who I never had a father. I don't know my father, like I don't know how to be a father. I learned how to be a father from listening to podcasts and reading books, you know what I mean? And like learning by mistakes, so for me, like, when I listen, this podcast has been great for me because I'm a hip hop head. I love the culture. I've loved the culture since I was, tiny. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it's been. So finding this podcast that was a mixture of like hip hop flavor and like real talk fucking parenting, like not like fluffy bullshit that you might get on another podcast. Like it resonates with me. Because the gems that are there like are practical. For my life, you know what I mean? And I think that, I always tell people about it, especially, people that I fuck with, because that are fathers and in hip hop, because I feel like that there's a lot of us that are like that, didn't have fathers, or trying to find our way as parents, But that's the episode.
It's an unfortunate reality, and Kay, I mean, I turn it over to you. Like, you want to share some of your experiences and just some of your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is the fact that you re-listened to a throwback episode is the shit.
Yeah.
So that shows that you're a true listener. So I appreciate that as well. But no, I think we all are in the same boat, and that's kind of why we started this, and to share the information, specifically with what you're going through. I think we've all been there. I know, Manny, you bounced around. I know when we had our son, we were in LA, and we did not have immediate family very close by. Either it's some hours away, or it's a flight away, or so yeah, learning to, in a way, it's I kind of look at it like it's been a good thing, because it really made us try to figure out, like, okay, how, we really got to be on our A game, you know what I mean? Because I've seen flip sides where there's enough family around close by where that almost folks become spoiled, and they just drop their kids off left and right, and it's like
parents don't got a parent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got the grandparents practically raising the kids and stuff, because you just have that at your disposal, and if you're not really thinking, if it's weird, I'm like, damn, really? you're gonna take advantage that much?
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I got homies and friends who, they don't really understand. Like, I can't go and do the same things they do sometimes. Like, I don't go out and do things like the way they do, because I don't have baby. Like, I don't. And like, we're the kind of people who, like, we're so tight knit that, like, we don't, like, I'm not gonna do like care.com and have some stranger come fuck with my kids. Nobody's gonna take care of my kids, but me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even like. If I'm being completely honest, I don't even like my kid being at school 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're doing there. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know. I mean, we know, but, like, there's always an unknowingness of what they're learning from other kids and what the other influences are. Once the kids are outside of your house, things affect them, and they see things and experience things that we might not be in line with. But, like, I would never have, like, I can't do the care.com or nothing. And I don't find it as like a hindrance either, though. I know some people, some of my people are like, yo, why don't you just get a babysitter or lead them with a neighbor or whatever? And I'm just like, bro, what I look like leaving my daughter who's 10 years old with some, you know what I mean? Like, even my neighbors, like the people who are around me, like, I've got a, I mean, we can get into this a little bit later on too, but, like, I've got a little bit of a core of, like, there's some dads that I met. Like, I know me and Manny talked in DM about finding dads and stuff, and I have that to an extent, but, like, it's not somewhere where I'm like, even some of the people who I'm comfortable with, like, it's not like I'm gonna leave my daughter there, go hang out. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the same. Like, if it's an emergency, like, God forbid something happens, then yes, for sure. Like, hey, can you just watch it for a little bit? Like, my daughter stayed with a neighbor when my second daughter was born. I got a second daughter. I got a 10-year-old, and I got a second daughter who's gonna be 2. And when the second daughter was born, she was in what they call NICU for a little while. So I had my older daughter stay with, like, my best friend who's here with me. You know what I mean? Like, that's the person that I have who is, there for me. He's my boss. He's my mentor, and, like, the dude who I've been with for over a decade. Just, that's how we're family, So in a sense, I do have that, but that's more of like, it's not like I would never be like, yo, can you watch my daughter so I can go do X, Y? That's not the situation, like, I would never do that,
Right.
And
so seeing people do that is weird to me too,
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this in the DM, but, like, and I think all of us here, probably have the same sentiment, which is like, yo, the trust, the issue with trusting freely. I'm among the 3 of us on this podcast, I'm probably the most trusting, I would say, among us. But even with something like so intimate and, like, important as your kids, it's really challenging. Something as simple as, like, a play date. Right? Like, knowing that they're going to go somewhere for an extended period of time and then come back at some point, not that far into the future, there's a lot you got to contend with and think about. And, like, I try not to put too much like negativity in my head to like dissuade me from doing something. But there's a lot of reality that you have to like filter in and kind of weigh, right? And so like I live in a neighborhood where I'd say the majority of people are very cool, appear that way, right? Like nice. And I think in most neighborhoods you probably come across the same. But then when you know, like somebody will come and be like, yo, can our kids, you know, get together and play? I'm just like, my immediate reaction is one of like, yo, let's see.
Yeah.
No, and then I have this struggle. It's like, yo, I know my kid would enjoy that. They would appreciate doing that. How well do I know these people? Know them fairly well. Like I feel like comfortable with it. So then we make the decision and we do it and it's fine. Like it's never have had an issue, but I understand because I've been there, especially with my eldest, because it was new, right? It's like, yo, she's 15 now, but when she was 8, we wasn't doing no play dates.
Right.
Like we was like
sleepovers and nothing like that. Like
yo, to this day, we don't fuck with the sleepovers.
Yeah, we don't fuck with the sleepovers. I don't fuck with the sleepovers, man.
Nah.
And it's not, and I know that sounds horrible, like, because like I know that sounds like, oh, well, you don't trust the people that you fuck with, but like that's not really what it is, man. You know, like it's not about it goes beyond trust. You know, this is more of like and you know, I just saw something on the gram like 20 minutes ago before this call. And it was a question that this dude posed, and he was like, the difference between people who are raised with love as opposed to people who are raised on survival, right? And I think that there's a huge difference in how people who are raised in love, like my kids are being raised with love now and support and understanding, and you know, at least I hope they feel that way, you know what I mean? But like we're raising them and like we want them to go to good schools and want them to go, man, I wasn't raised that way. You know what I'm saying? Like I was, I mean, you know, God bless my mother, but like she was on her own, you know, even though we had family around, like I was wild. I was in the streets at like 11. You guys know, right? Like, I mean, like East Coast, New York City, like at like 11, you're out there 12, 13 years old. Like you're at that age already. You're like in it. You know what I'm saying? Like you're right. Especially if you're from the hood, right? Like if you're from the hood, like you are exposed to things that like are not normal to 85-90% of people across the country. You know what I mean? Like you're exposed to things, and you learn things faster than you should at those ages, right? So like that survival that some of us have is very different than being raised with love, you know. And I think that it dictates every aspect of your life moving forward, you know. And I can say that from experience, that every decision in my life till this day is based off of a survival mentality, right? Like I don't have the luxury of like sitting back and chilling and, you know, like thinking about like I can't think about, oh, I can't wait till I retire. I'm gonna go to the Bahamas. Like I can't, like I'm trying to, you know, pay my bills and make my due. I'm surviving now, right? Like I can't, you know. And I think that that's why some of us, at least from my experience, guys like me, like we have problems with like saving for the future and doing that. That's why like the shirt I'm wearing, right? I thought Jordans and a gold chain was living it up, right? Like we still have that mentality at 40 years old. I still have that mentality, you know what I mean? Because that's all you know, right? You know, whereas opposed to like, you know, as somebody who's really, like my daughter, for instance, who she's 10 now, like I can see it in her that she's so different personality wise. She views the world differently. You know, she understands that she has the safety net of love and protection and like, you know, of resources, you know what I mean? I think that has a lot to do with the mentality of like it's not really a not trusting. It's more of like a survivalist mentality, I feel like, you know, because when you say not trusting, right, like I feel like that kind of is the negative connotation to people, right? Like, oh, you don't trust anybody, you know?
It's
but
true.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's true. And I think you're right, though. I think that's probably a better way to describe it, because when I say I don't trust, it is more from a survival mentality, right? It's like I can't allow myself, at least historically, I'm not that way as much anymore, but it's kind of in my roots. It's like, yo, if I put myself out there and allow myself to be to feel trust of these people or in this environment, I might get got or I might get played or whatever. So that's me just like holding it close to the vest, right?
I chalk it up also as opposed to trust is more of I look at like, all right, my child is my number one priority. That trumps all at this point. So I got to listen to my gut. And even if it's going to be overprotective or whatever, I got to do what I feel makes me feel comfortable. And if that means, coming off looking like an ass or untrustworthy or whatever, and so be it, because that, my main, I'm looking out for my main priority here.
Yeah.
So how do you, Shawn, just, I guess, getting back to that original, like, feeling, I can't say that you feel alone, but you guys are effectively alone, operating just as your nuclear family, right?
Yeah.
And not having the freedom or the reliance on other family members or a deep set of friends. So, like, what are the challenges that you experience with that? And like what are the pros and cons in your world?
I think for me, like the biggest thing that I see, and I don't know if it's a challenge. I think and it may be more of a me thing than the kids. It might be, some of these things are probably more of us than they are our children feeling these things. But like, when my kid comes home and they're talking about how their friends are at their grandmother's house or whatever, or they might see a TV show and they see, like, we watch, like, you see these family TV shows and they see these families together and the grandparents and the cousins and stuff like that. And we don't have that, And for me, like, it's more me feeling bad, I think. Like, I wish that, my mother was here, or, my wife's mother, whatever it is, like, I wish they had that. So for me, I feel like in my mind, I'm always wondering if, like, my kids will feel enough love. Like, can I give them enough? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they might see, like, when, like, they don't have grandparents that are going to come pick them up and take them to Disneyland. No shit like that, Whereas, like, when in our, so let me preface that first, though, with, I live in a real nice area outside of Los Angeles, right? We're in an apartment building, of course, you know what I mean? But like, we live in a nice suburb area, right? It's super safe. The kids play, the neighbors hang out, you know what I mean? It's a different, so we see that more than the opposite. And I think that is really what it boils down to for me, right? Like, because if it was a lot of people, and like, if we all lived in the projects, for instance, and everybody had that, because when I came up in the hood, when I came up in the projects, right, like, everybody had the same experience, But what I find now is that we are having different experiences inside my home as opposed to what everybody else is having, right? Like, me and my wife talk differently to our kids. We interact differently with our kids. Where, like, we don't do Santa Claus and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a thing, like, I work hard. We're buying you these presents. You know what I mean? Like, we tell me what you want. We gonna hook it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. And we see all these other people celebrating with their families and they're doing these things. And it's very different. I think because it seemingly looks so different, my brain is like, oh man, I wonder if, like, maybe they might feel like they're lacking something in our family. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really why I hit you guys up, because I was like, is there any other episodes that references these experiences that you guys had? Like, are you guys feeling that or seeing that kind of thing too?
You know how I reference it all in my head is, and my wife and I say this out loud to my son because he'll bring up stuff about, like, oh, well, my friends have a phone, or, they're going on trips, or they're doing, they're allowed to go do a sleep, or whatever it is, right? Because the kids are always going to do the comparisons.
Yeah.
And what we always strike back with is that doesn't matter what they do. This is how we run our family, right?
Right. Fuck your friends, B.
That's what the fuck I'm saying right there, man. Right? Yeah, your friends don't live here, bro. You know what I mean?
This is how we are. This is how our family operates, right? Yep. And if you can continue to compare, you're gonna feel lack or whatever when that's not really the case. So it's more about, and even just for ourselves, it's more about reminding ourselves, like, everyone's got a different situation, and so as our own family, as our own unit, this is how we are. These are our circumstances, or this is how we're choosing to live life and make things go. So, I think not just the kids comparison, but sometimes we have to check ourselves on the comparison too, right? Because You mentioned it before, they might not even be thinking that they're lacking or anything, or how come this is different or whatever. But, as parents who are thinking about this stuff, sometimes we can overthink ourselves and feel like, we're not doing enough, when in fact, we are. We're just, again, this is the way that our lives are working, and this is how our unit moves.
Man, that's such a good point, man.
I'll share. And Shawn, you say you have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old daughter, right?
Yeah.
So I have the advantage as far as like having gone through some of these things and like seeing, at least in my world, how it's come, what the results have been. So my 15-year-old daughter, so we have family in Florida, we have family here in New York, and then we've got family kind of scattered in different pockets here on the East Coast. And so when we lived in Miami, she was very close to her family in Miami, and it's large enough. She has cousins, like it was like a good like mix. Yeah. So kind of some of the stuff that you think, might be lacking, my daughter had, right? Yeah. And so she actually was able to experience that. Mm-hmm. And we moved to Cali, all of that was gone, right? And so we were afraid moving to California because we were like, yo, this might be traumatic for this kid, like going from a ton of family to zero.
Yep.
And she adapted. And I think a lot of it is just her personality versus like, this is common. But in our case, it worked out, right? And so then she was still like, yo, can we go see them? Like, can we make trips, whatever? And we would do what we could to make it back and like kick it, whatnot. But it wasn't something we were doing every year, right? So then fast forward, we moved to New York. Few years after we were here, like she's growing, she still has that connection, still wants to keep that connection, and we facilitate it through FaceTime and all that stuff. But now after she entered high school, like she's at a point in her life where she not that she doesn't care for that family or want to be more close to that family, but I think it's additive. Like she appreciates this close-knit unit that we are, and has no issue with us moving and doing what we do.
Right.
And she still gets to enjoy her family when the opportunities present themselves, but it's not like, and I don't want to use the word addiction, but like when she was younger, it was like she was like pushing hard for it, right?
Yeah.
And it just wasn't available. So she adapted. So all that long-winded way of saying, like, my gut would say, given my experience, like you're probably doing everything right when it comes to like providing, because I think you would have heard something by now if there was something significantly lacking. And the fact that they see these symbols in other places of, let's call it Santa Claus or grandparents or cousins and all that stuff, like I feel like the friends that they start to develop, that's why I know you said like you're not even too sure you're cool with them being 8 hours in school. Right? And I get that. That's real. That's real.
Yeah, man.
But at the same time,
to me, schools are some of the worst places. That's why. I mean, I've experienced some of the worst things in school. I've seen, all the bad things you hear. A lot of the times you turn on the news, 8 out of 10 times, it's something bad and it's originating from school. You know what I mean? Like we just had around the corner, the middle school that all her friends are going to go to. Like a bunch of kids brought, weed edibles, and they were all yacked up, like 10 kids. You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. So that's it. I don't want to get off track, but that's a situation where I'm like, you definitely ain't going to that motherfucking school. You know what I mean?
Right.
And my wife, she had a idea. She's like, yo, like, yeah, she's on board. She's like, we don't want to send her there either. But at the same time, she's like, what the fuck was you doing in middle school? And I think about, 12, 13. Here's a little fact. At 4 years of middle school, I went to middle school in Ridgewood, and at 4 years of that middle school, I went 180 days. I went less than one whole school year because I was in the street. I was in a park across the street from the school. I was with the older cats. I was drinking. I was learning how to smoke cigarettes. I was doing stuff like that. So when I think about that, it in the perspective, it doesn't. I understand how that could happen in a middle school, right? But at the same time, I don't want that to ever touch my kid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever want her, like, I'm not proud that like I was a degenerate. Not, and I say it like that, but like I'm not proud that I was that kid. I'm not proud of the stuff that I did coming up. I mean, none of us are, right? I mean, most of us are not proud of the stuff that we had to do to survive or to whatever it was, So when I see that, that's my thing with schools, man. All of that to say that's my problem with schools. You don't know what's going on,
Hey, Manny, to just to go back to your point a few minutes ago, and I think just to sum that other piece up is that I do think that having, let's say lack of extra family around, I think it'll pay off in the long run, because it creates a certain closeness when you're the unit, right? You're the focal piece. And really, when you think about the kids when they're younger, think about when they ask you to like play with them, hang out with them, all that kind of stuff. And even if you're tired, or sometimes it's like, oh man, I got other stuff to do. But then it's like, well, damn, they really like being with us. You know what I'm saying? They like hanging out with us. And that's a great thing. And then I think that like creating that close bond is something that I'm hopeful, because we have a real tight family. I mean, we're very, it's essentially the three of us, right? And so it creates that super close bond that I'm hoping lasts and continues on. And, that early establishment of that close bond, which, and sounds like that's how you're living. So maybe that's a good thing for you.
I do see that too. That's a really good point too, because I see that in both my daughters right now. My wife, man, she's an incredible mother, man. And she works really hard at really. She's got a real good bond with these kids. Like I said, like my mom, I love my mom, but I've seen a lot of good mothers, but like my wife she is one of the above and beyond people. And we learn from each other. And even for me, like me and my oldest daughter, we golf almost every weekend. Like that's our thing. We like to go and hit the golf course, and we go to this tiny little golf course near us. It's good for kids, but she wants to do that. And we go out there, I drink beers, we listen to hip hop, and we golf and we talk. You know what I mean? Like that's what we do. And she will sometimes, so there'll be some Sundays where I'm tired, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. And seeing her wanting to do it, you're right. And I get up and I get in there because I feel that she wants to spend that time, and so I do. I hope that it pays dividends. But when you're in it, you don't see it. And
you make it a bigger thing than it likely really is, right?
Yeah.
That's just human nature. Like we get caught up in our own shit, and then it projects out, and it becomes this massive thing. But like I said, like I just read your kids, man. Like just check on how they move and what kind of pain points subtly pop up, and like address them. Your 10-year-old is going to be easier because you can actually have conversations with her more effectively, right? So like I don't discount in any way like having frank conversations, like direct conversations, like, yo, how you feeling? Yo, what's going on in school? Oh, what do you see? Like not necessarily directly be like, yo, are you lacking family? Obviously, but there's things that you could like tease and bring into discussion to see, could get a pulse.
Yeah, and I do that too, because like I said, I learned how to be a father from like books and like apps and shit, and I got like an app on my phone that gives me questions to ask her when she gets out of school, like, hey, who made you laugh today? What bored you today? Shit like that, because like I feel like it's important. Nobody asked me that shit as a kid. Nobody in my entire life. Nobody ever said, hey, how you doing? As a kid, no one. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you guys might feel the same way. Like, I think there was a culture when we were coming up. I mean, you guys are probably around the same age as me. I just turned 40. Like, I think there was a culture where like we were in the fuck. Parents let us do whatever we wanted to. Generally, like we was out there. Nobody ever asked us. And nobody ever asked me for sure anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yo, share that app. I think it might be helpful to other people too. What's the name?
It's the Hardy app.
HEARTY.
HEARTY. And there's like, activities and stuff. There's like ideas that you could do. And there's this one section about the day where it says like, it's like how to start conversations, and it's like, they give you these prompts, like, how was your day? If you had to rate your day from 1 to 10, how was your day? That kind of stuff. And I find it real helpful. What's the hardest thing that you did today? I find that helpful because if you ask your kid, hey, how was your day? Good.
So,
How
yeah,
many times do your kids come out of school and you're like, hey, what'd you do today? I don't know.
yeah, they don't want to. They want
Yeah,
to decompress.
that's exactly right. They want to
Yeah.
come home. They want to get on an iPad. They want to chill. They want to just the same way we get out of work, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, I mean, this app I've just started, not too long ago. And it's really been beneficial because I was real frustrated, guys. Like I was like, every day, yo, how was school? And it was good. It was good. Everything's great. What did you do? I don't know. We did, this. And it was like this, like it was like pulling teeth, trying to like feel you out, trying to figure out, So I really, having specific questions to ask has made a huge difference because I think that it makes it easier for them to reciprocate the information or like to because it's the same thing. If you ask me how was my day, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I was good, whatever. I'm not going to be like, right. Peter really pissed me off today. I'm not going to tell you that because that's not really that was like a small minute of the day where I might not even be in my brain at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hardy app. It's good stuff.
That's dope. A question for you. So like going back to like the beginning of fatherhood for you and given some of the stuff you shared, like you mentioned, like you didn't have a father, like you figuring out fatherhood is an ongoing thing. Like it is for all of us, but it sounds like you didn't really have a reference point, right?
No, not at all.
So like when you found out that you were having your daughter, what was life? Okay.
Shook. I was shook. I was real shook because I know this podcast ain't about that, but I had a real bad, real hard upbringing. Like I was homeless with my mom, like my stepfather was very, very abusive, very violent. I had I had a negative point of reference. I don't know how to be, to this day, I don't know. I'm still learning how to be a man, how to be a husband to my wife, how to be, you know what I mean? Like at 40 years old, I'm still learning these things every day because I had negative reference for this,
right?
And I think that when we got pregnant, with my first daughter, I was, man, fear stricken because I was like, man, like what if I make those mistakes? What if, you know what I mean? Like I was never that person, but what if like I was not a good person my entire life? Me and my wife been together over 20 years. We were high school sweethearts, and we've been through it. Anything you could think of in a relationship, we done been through it, and we're still here, and there were times where I was like, what if I don't know how to parent? I don't know what is this going to change? What is this going to, like, it really blew me up, and I wound up, I'm telling you, I bought like a stack of books, and I was just reading them, just trying to go through them, and, I would reach out to, I was in group homes and stuff, man, growing up in the system, and I reached out to counselors who showed me love, when I say I didn't really know how to be a man, that's not true. That's actually a disrespectful thing to say, man. Shout out St. John's group home, man, Rockaway, the place I ended up at last. Like I learned a lot about being a man from those men counselors there. They, not so much as, they were counselors. It wasn't like we were in there as a family, but I learned a lot of life skills from them that I think translated into being a parent a little bit. And because of that, I was able to thankfully still reach out and be like, yo, like, I need some help. I need some advice, and of course they were so gracious to me. That's the thing, a lot of people, and my family included, they don't really, sometimes I get kind of misunderstood because I have this energy, right? But it's because, I was, the way I came up was in, kind of an interesting place of Queens, like that Ridgewood, Maspeth area. I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in this area. And then when I went into the system and I was involved, like then we went to the hood and things changed for me, right? Like I went from like living in like a primarily Italian neighborhood to really being in it, So all of these things I learned from Black men, from my brothers who are my brothers till this day. Like those are the dudes who I wish that I was closer to them, logistically, because I would have them to lean on, you know, and I talk to them all the time because a lot of them had kids when they were younger and they have been through this, you know. But the problem with that is like a lot of the times they had kids when they were younger, and at a point when you have kids when you're very young, like you don't really, it's the perspective is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like when you're in it like that, like it's very, and you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen that. So for me, I would go back and I would get this advice. And that's what I did in the beginning. You know, I read these books and I would try to seek out, you know, counsel where I could, you know, because I didn't know, man. I was shook for real. That's the best word for it, because I'm still shook, you know, with my new daughter. You know, like I'm hoping she's so different than my first. My first daughter is calm, chill, laid back, super. This one, even at almost 2, she's buck wild, man. Like fucking buck wild, dude. And I'm like, this is me for sure.
Yeah,
this is, you know what I mean? So like I don't know, man, just still learning, you know. But I still have that fear, you know. I don't think the fear has ever gone away, you know.
It's funny how raising kids can be, or just dealing with kids can be scarier than being in a shootout or something like that.
Yeah. Word life, bro. For real. Like the scariest, dude. You know, I mean, I felt the same way. I mean, and I know you guys probably have some of this thing too, you know, being in a professional environment as opposed to, you know, like if you come up a certain way, once you get like if somebody piss you off in the office, you can't just fucking rock their shit and walk. You know what I mean? Like you can't.
I almost did one time.
Yeah, I know. Yo, because it's real like that, right? Like, because you have to learn how to navigate life. And you don't know that in your like teens and sometimes even your early 20s, right? Like you don't see that. You know what I mean? It's not till like you get past that point that you like, oh, you understand that you can't do those things. You know what I mean? And you can't operate in those same mental spaces that you did, you know, even if right, wrong, or indifferent, right? Like you might be at work and somebody like, you know, does something really offensive to you. You can't be, the violence it's a non-point. You can't really do that. You know what I mean?
You don't win. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins. Yeah. You know, that's why my wife is like, she always says this all the time. She references, because back in the day, I was wild, man. Like wild. If somebody honked at me raw, I hop out the car at the stoplight. Like I was crazy. And now you could flip me off. You could throw something at me. I'm gonna keep on driving. I'm never even gonna look at you. Because you know what? I know what the outcome is to that. Nobody wins, you know, nobody at all. And that's the thing too that I try to impart into you know, especially my older daughter, like, because she's at an age where like not every kid is nice, right? And I'm just like, yo, even if people ain't nice, let them roll, because it ain't got to be you. They gonna catch it from somebody else. It don't got to be you, right? Like I believe in you and I trust you and you can handle yourself. I know that. But it don't gotta be. It's, you know, we grew up, and especially as men, I think we feel like it's gotta be us, right? Like we gotta teach that person a lesson, right? Like they disrespected me. I gotta teach them a lesson. It's my job. I learned over time that it's not, man. You know, you hit the joint, you know, for a minute. You gotta sit down for a minute, and then you instantly realize that like it ain't gotta be you all the time. You know, I don't gotta teach. No, I ain't gotta be nobody's teacher. I need to be the student. You know what I'm saying?
It's so you mentioned a few things that I just want to comment quickly.
Yeah. Sorry, I run off sometimes. I apologize.
No, it's all good. And it's important stuff, because like you said something earlier that I think a lot of us men are challenged to do, which is reach out for advice.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's something that we as men, we kind of feel like we got to be head of household and we got to run, like teach the lessons. We got to, you know, be the breadwinners only, like all these different things that are stereotypical of a guy that we really don't need to only do or only be, right? And so being able like that, you mentioned like you didn't have a positive point of reference, or you know, you use books to try to help gain knowledge in how to parent. Bro, you're doing all the right things in my opinion, because you having the presence of mind to reach out to others when you know that you're lacking somewhere or you feel uneasy about something when it relates to you parenting is like the holy grail in my opinion, because you're looking for different perspectives on a situation, and they may all be different and not necessarily the right fit for your particular situation, but you have a frame of reference that then you can use to move in the direction you think is best.
Yep.
And I can speak from personal experience. I wasn't like that. I was the guy that was like, fuck that. I know best, or I'm gonna pretend like I do it. I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And I ran into enough roadblocks where and then when we started this podcast, I opened myself up and I was like, all right, humble myself. Let me be the student now.
Yeah.
And through just talking to these two dudes on this podcast, I've implemented so many things in my personal life that have yielded many benefits.
Yeah.
And I think I've been able to help them just at least consider different things as well, right? So like that's always been the premise of the pod, and I know we're grateful that you listen. And if at a very minimum we never solve a single problem for anybody who listens, but we share our experiences and they can at least leave an episode saying, "Damn, yo, I've been there."
Yeah.
I think we've done our job.
And I think that's part of what the draw is to this pod, man. Is that men in general don't chop it up about important shit like this. Never. You never sitting with the homies. So that's not what it is, And I feel like even this right here, me saying things out loud has already, like, when I leave out from this conversation, I'm gonna be decompressed over the next couple hours, and like I'm gonna, like, gems are gonna be in me because of this conversation. Because like sometimes saying shit out loud is how you get the answer. Chopping it up with other people, and that's the draw. That's my draw to this pod, right? Because I heard a bunch of dudes who were going through it and they were helping each other solve problems. And in turn, I was getting problems solved, right? Because you all would drop gems and I'd be like, fuck yeah, I forget what it was, but the last throwback, it was you all just did, right?
Yeah,
like
we did 2 back to back.
Dropped like 2 days ago, right? Yeah. I was listening to that. And I don't remember listening to it the first time, but I remember, but I started listening to it. And I was like, there was something in there that was said that I was like, damn, even then, that's why sometimes I re-listen. I don't re-listen to podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, to be honest, even like the self-help ones, because most of the time, like, I don't find like I can connect with what they're saying or with the people who are saying it, and for me, that's a big draw. Like, that's a big deal for me. Like I need people who are like-minded, I need people who are, and that's not to say that I don't want other experiences or things, but I think for guys, especially guys like us, that we need to be able to talk about these things in a platform like this, because we're not talking about it, right? Like, imagine if you guys did this in your 20s, right? Let's just say, and you guys but you were this people in your 20s, right? Imagine the help that you could, like, I send this to the younger homies. I'm like, yo, I send your podcast. I'm like, yo, I know you just had a kid, yo, Pete, these dudes, like, this shit's going to fuck you up, but you're going to get mad help from it. Trust me. Like, because I really feel like if there was something like this, or even like the OGs, even like the old homies, right? Like, the knowledge that they pass down is not always in this format, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a different kind of knowledge at times, and it's not like it's never as deep as you want it sometimes. Like, there are times where I was like, I had a situation and I'm like, yo, I don't really know how to deal with this. And, some of those dudes back in the day, they give you the wrong information because they don't know how to, they didn't know, you know what I mean? Like, it was blind leading the blind. And now, we're in this age where, like, we have podcasts and we've got, like, people who are, like, open about, like, men's mental health and, like, things like that, where, like, 20 years ago, that shit didn't exist, man. People just struggle. People still now are just struggling in silence, to some extent. But, like, at least that, like there are conversations like this happening. I think that it's really, really important, and not just for me or for you guys, but for the culture, right? Like, I mean, I feel like this caters a lot to hip hop culture, and I love that it does, because I feel like in hip hop culture that there's a lot of that kind of depth lacking for us, and
yeah, there's a lot of different focal points, and I think for us, like, not having your foundation set, and I look at the family as the foundation. Yeah. Whatever you build on top of it is going to be shaky at best, so you kind of have to take it back a step a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it too, because I often think of myself that way, like, what would have happened if when you build a house on a shaky foundation, right? What do you got to do? Sometimes you got to tear that motherfucker down and restart, right? You got to relay that concrete block and you got to start building again. And sometimes you might lay that concrete and it's slanted and the house is slanted, so it's not perfect and shit happens and you got to tear down that part of the house and then rebuild that part. So to me, that's the analogy that I like to use for myself, because I'm very, very imperfect, you know, but I'm also not afraid to, like, I'll tear out that living room. You know what I mean? Like, if I get new information, I'm a person who I really do pride myself on getting new information. Like, I don't mind being wrong, you know, like tell me I'm wrong, you know, but when you tell me I'm wrong, like, help me understand why I'm wrong and what the right answer is. You know what I'm saying? And if you do that, then I can tear that fucking living room out, and I can build a nicer one, you know, and it'll be flat, it'll be, you know, level and good, you know.
I think
Always
that's
work in progress.
I think that's the gem, the ending gem right there.
That's it. Shawn,
Hey,
man, yo,
hey, I think we gotta do more of these, Manny.
yeah, this was dope to have like a listener like jump in and like share the experiences. Like, I always take something away from every episode. I took mad joints from having this convo.
Yo,
So
I appreciate y'all so much, man, for real.
No, man, love is mutual, bro. And again, thank you for, like, yo, being brave enough to even like share, right? Because like a lot of this stuff is very personal, and you know, and fully respect people that don't want to, but we learn more from the people that are able to. And so I think your experiences are going to help other folks as well.
I hope so, man. I hope. You know, that's the hope. If anything could come from anything that I say, for sure, like, I really hope. I hope somebody hears and they're like, damn, I was like that too. You know, maybe I had the same similar. Maybe they got a similar experience and they had nobody to talk to. But like, I'm with it, man. I'm down for that. I want to help people. I want people to. We all grow together, right?
Yeah,
that's how it is. You know?
The show, man.
Yo, much appreciated.
Yeah,
thank you guys so much, man.
Best of luck in your journey, man. We'll definitely keep chatting on the DMs and whatnot.
For sure, man.